Hello and welcome back. And in this video, we are going to be implementing our keychain functionality. So what we're going to do is we're gonna first of all we're gonna import that keychain password item. So if you haven't downloaded already, I would actually recommend you to download it, or you can copy it from the project sample project that is attached. Um, so go ahead and download that and copy it inside your Xcode, and make sure that copy item if needed is selected and add to target is selected as well. And we're gonna click finish. Now we have our keychain password item. Swift is basically loaded, and this is a file. Um, it should work right out of the box. If you see any of the API changes, you can actually fix them if you're downloading from Apple's website, or if you copy it from this sample project, then you can have everything working because this has already been converted into Swift 4.2. All right. So once you have that, let's go ahead and create a new file, and where we're gonna store our configuration. So let's create keychain config, and in this keychain config, we simply gonna have a couple of properties. So it's gonna be foundation, and we're gonna create a struct. We're gonna call this keychain config, and we're gonna have some static let properties, service name. So service name is basically a unique name that you want to provide, because the service name is going to be the identifier that you're going to use to retrieve your stored information back from keychain store. Okay, and then you're going to have access group. In our case, we're going to just keep it null. Okay. We can create these two configurations, so we can actually supply these two whenever we are saving our password or retrieving our password. So let's take a look how we can save passwords and retrieve passwords. So first, let's go into our login view, and what we need to do inside our login view is, whenever user has been authenticated successfully, um, this is where we are actually user has been authenticated successfully, authenticate user, yeah, and we actually segue user the uh, into the general home. So before we do this, what we're gonna do is we also gonna save our users information into password, basically into the key store. Now we also want to save their username, and you have a choice. You can either save username inside your keychain store, or you can use your share preferences basically to store or user defaults to store users username. Now username is not such a secured information. It is somewhat secret, but it's not very secret, which is why most of the people um, don't bother, or most of the apps don't bother to create a username as a private or secret text box. But username information is something that can be shared. Is the combination that, if leaked, is what compromises the security. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use user defaults to basically save username, and then password is going to be stored inside the keychain store. This way, we are actually not only minimizing the interaction with keychain and keeping our secure data really secure, but we are also have the ability to basically use that username further down, basically to check if the username is already saved, and we're going to use that information along with if the device has enabled Touch ID or Face ID in order to basically authenticate user using their Touch ID and Face ID. So we're gonna retrieve that instead. So without reaching down to keychain security, we're gonna reach out to shared preferences and say, or user defaults, and say, hey, you have username and do you have information if this user has enabled biometric authentication. And if we get answers to those two as yes, then we go and reach out to Keychain and say, hey, now give me the password for this user. And that's how we actually minimize our interaction and keep our data really, really secure within the app. Right? So hope that all made sense. If not, it's gonna make sense when we start building it out. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna first check if user defaults dot standard dot value for key, and now here we can actually use a key that's going to be unique for our user defaults. So what I think we should do is we should create a file called constants, and inside that file we can actually store all of our constants. So let's say constants, and we're simply gonna create a struct here, UI kit in case we need it, and struct constants. Okay, so for now we're gonna create two statiglets. It's gonna be biometric enabled, staticlet k username. All right, so these two we're gonna use. So what we can do here is in user default, under user default, when we are looking for value, instead of typing a string based key, we're simply gonna say constants dot k username, because we're gonna need to access this a whole bunch of times and we can make a typo. So we're gonna say if is equal to nil, so basically it's not present in user defaults. In that case, we want to save user's password or user's username into user defaults. So we can say that user defaults dot set user set email as username for constants. Okay, so this is how we're gonna store our users username, and we're simply gonna say user defaults or synchronize. Okay, and then we're gonna save password into keychain. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is we are going to say create an item. So password item keychain password item, and it takes a service, account, and access group. That's the one that we want. So the service is keychain config dot service name that we created. Account is basically the username or the email that we're gonna create it from, and then you have keychain config dot access group as access group. Okay, now next block can throw an error, so we're gonna wrap it inside do try catch. So do try password item dot save password, and we're going to save the password that we know, and we're going to catch the error, and we're going to throw that fatal error if any error occurs here. I'm going to show error dot localized description. Okay, so this is basically going to save our password. Now I don't think we need this, so we can actually remove that. Okay, and save. So I don't think we need this either, so we can simply say underscore, because we want to make sure that we do have like a user before we proceed. So save users credentials. Okay. All right. So with this, if user has logged in, and if the user does not have within this device, so let's say they're logging in for the first time on this device and they don't have any of the username saved in user defaults, in that case we can actually save their username in user defaults and gonna save their password inside the keychain. Okay, now the benefit is this is just, I'm going to show you something temporarily so you can see how we can actually use this. So let's say when view did appear, you can say super dot view did appear, animated, and temporarily for right now, this is what we're going to do is we're going to check if this is not nil, then we're going to read our user's value back. So if this is not nil, so we have something for username, then we're going to say email field dot text is equal to user defaults dot standard dot value for, actually what we should have done is instead of checking that, username, so this way we would get the username, and oh, okay, there we go. All right, so what we're gonna do is we simply gonna say email field dot text is equal to username. I'm gonna populate that, and then we're gonna use password item. So password item keychain password item, and now the service is going to be keychain config dot service name, account is username, and keychain config dot access group. Okay, now we're gonna read that value back. Okay, so we're gonna do is we're gonna say if let password is equal to password item dot read password. Now this can throw as well, so we're simply gonna unwrap this time. Okay, so it returns a string, and it's just for temporary. So password field dot text is equal to password. There we go. So we're gonna populate the password as well, and then user can log in. So their basically their username and passwords are gonna be auto-filled. So it's automatically gonna get populated. Uh, Although we can actually remove this, and we're gonna use this information only for Touch ID and Face ID. So let's go ahead and launch the app and see if we made any mistakes. There you go. So nothing is saved right now. So we're gonna log in with demo at demo.com, password, and we're gonna log in, and we logged into our homepage. Now I'm gonna sign out, and as you can see, our username and password has been saved. So we can simply click on login and jump right into the app. Now this might be the functionality that you might need, so you can leave this code. But for now, actually, I'm gonna remove or comment this part, and we're only gonna keep the email. So when our user actually logs in, and if they have ever logged into the app, in those cases, we're gonna show them their username, and their username is gonna be automatically populated inside this box, and then they can just type password, or they can tap on that Touch ID button, and then basically get authenticated that way. So that's what we're gonna actually we're gonna use this information for. Okay, so now you saw how we have this enabled this basically on our login screen. But let's say if user is signing up for the first time, well, we have two choices. We know that our user is basically going to always log back in, because we don't allow our user, so far we don't allow them to auto log in. So let's take a look at an example. For example, so but there is a problem that you're gonna see here. So let's say we create demo 5, for example, at demo.com, and so let's say demo 5 is name, demo 5 at demo.com, and password is the password. Now if we click on sign up and we come back, we still have that old information here. Okay, now we don't want that, but the other thing that we want is basically we want to have our user a default updated with the newly logged in user as well, so we can show that newly logged in user's username, so they can log in with that newly signed up username. Okay, so for that reason, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do something similar inside our sign up view controller as well. Okay, so I guess we can really quickly do that. So let's go ahead and jump in and look for our code where we are clicking on sign up, and we're updating username, and when the changes are in, okay, so right around this time, I think we should first save our information, and then let it continue with update the username. Okay, so let's create a function, and we're gonna call this save user credentials. Okay, and we're gonna expect username and password. Alright, so we simply gonna say self.save, and we're gonna get the email and password. Okay, now here what we're gonna do is something similar, which is going to be, so we really don't care, to check for if this value is there, because we're gonna actually override it. Okay, so we're gonna copy this part right here, and I'm gonna take it into sign up, and we're simply gonna paste it here. Okay, so save user credentials. Basically, it's gonna get access to user defaults, standard user defaults, and it's gonna basically save the username inside the default under username constant. So basically under this key, so it's gonna override whatever we had saved earlier, and then the password is gonna be saved as well. And there we go, and we are printing that. So with that change, I think we should be good. Now let's enable this one more time in order to do the testing. So I'm gonna just uncomment this, rerun the app, and we're gonna sign up with the new user. Okay, so sign up, demo6 at demo.com, password, sign up. Okay, so there we go. We have our demo6 showing up there, password showing up there. If we log in, we should not see demos information, but demo6's information. So demo6 does not have any general, that's why we don't see any general right here. Okay, when we log out, we still have our demo6 credentials ready to go, so they can simply click login and jump right in. Okay, so now let's comment this and make sure that password is not getting populated automatically, because we don't want to do that. We want our user to type the password or authenticate themselves using biometric authentication. Okay, cool. So this is awesome. So in the next video, let's enable biometric authentication inside our app and include Touch ID or Face ID, depending upon what kind of device we are using. All right. So I'll see you guys in next video. This is it for this video. Thank you.